Today we are doing a video on the most underrated Metallica songs on each album. So let's get into it. Metallica has 11 albums, and these are, in my opinion, the most underrated songs from each album. And these are all really good songs. I think they're really good songs, and they definitely deserve more listens. People should listen to these more because it's a good song. So I wrote it all down because there's no way I'm gonna remember all of it. But we're gonna start from their first album, going all the way to their latest album, 72 Seasons. So let's just make it short. I don't really want to make too long videos, but let's get into the first one. For Kill 'Em all of it's kind of difficult for the first the first four albums, because every song is iconic and popular, but there are some ones that I think are underrated. And for Kill 'Em All, I put No Remorse. I could have picked Metal Militia or maybe Jump in the Fire, but I went with No Remorse. I feel like no one talks about that song, and I think it's a really good song. Fun fact, Cannibal Corpse actually covered No Remorse, and it's actually a pretty good cover. But yeah, I think it's very underrated and a really good song. I wouldn't say it's one of the best songs on Kill 'Em All, but it is a good song. Especially the second half of the song is pretty good. For Ride the Lightning, now this song, this album and Master of Puppets are kind of hard to find an underrated song, because all the songs are really popular and really stuff really good on those albums. But for Ride the Lightning, I put Trapped Under Ice. I think is a really underrated song. Trapped Under Ice is such a great song. I mean, all of these are great songs, obviously, but Trapped Under Ice is just the way the song sounds is so cool. I just think it's I don't know how to explain it, but if you've heard Trapped Under Ice, you know it's a good song. I feel like that song is really underrated though. For Master of Puppets, I put The Thing That Should Not Be. I think that's a really underrated song. It's really heavy. Probably one of the heaviest songs on the album. And I just think it's a really cool song, and I don't really see people really mentioning this song or talking about it. So yeah, I'm gonna go with The Thing That Should Not Be for Master of Puppets. And for And Justice for All, which is my favorite album, I put Dyer's Eve, which is actually my favorite Metallica song of all time, and I think it's very underrated. And I feel like a lot of people don't know about this song. One because And Justice for All really isn't an album that's talked about too much. When people talk about And Justice for All, half of the talks are about how there's no bass, and the other half is just how good the album is. And speaking of the album having no bass, I remember one time I was playing guitar. I made a video of me playing the guitar, and somebody commented. No, I wasn't playing the guitar. I was watching a video on Instagram, and somebody was playing the guitar, and everybody was saying, "Yo, tune your guitar," and I was like, "It sounds fine to me," and somebody called me tone deaf. They call me tone deaf, and for anybody who can't hear the bass on Injustice for All, I think you're bass deaf, because for me personally, on the remastered version, I can hear the bass, and I can feel the vibrations of the bass when I'm listening to the album. So apparently I'm tone deaf, but a lot of you are bass deaf, because I don't know how you can't hear that bass. Maybe the original one you can't hear the bass, but the remastered version, I think you can hear the bass pretty well. But I'm playing Dyer's Eve. I think this song is really underrated. One and Justice for All songs aren't really talked about that much. The only songs on Injustice for All that people talk about, or I see people talking about online, is And Justice for All, the title track, and One. But Dyer's Eve is the closing track. It's the last song on the album, and I never see anyone talk about this song, and it sucks too, because this song is, in my opinion, their thrashiest song. The riffs are, it's one of the fastest riffs they've ever made. I'd even say it's faster than Battery's riff. The drumming is insane. Um, and everything about that song is just pure like thrash. It's so fast, it's so heavy, and the lyrics and everything behind the song is such a great song. I think that might be the most underrated song that Metallica has. Not even just on that album, like in their entire catalog. I think Dyer's Eve is like their most underrated song for sure. So yeah, moving on, we have the Black Album. I mean, it's kind of hard to find an underrated song on the Black Album because it's the Black Album. It's the best-selling metal album of all time. So a lot of the songs are pretty well known. But there is one song that I never see anyone talk about, and that is The Struggle Within. And funny story about this song, when I was first getting into Metallica, and I was listening to these albums for the first time, I liked every song off the Black Album except Struggle Within. And then, like a year later, like nearly a year later, I was looking through Metallica's catalog and seeing if I could find some new songs that I haven't heard yet, because I've heard most of their songs. And I saw, I don't have The Struggle Within on my playlist. So I listened to it, and I fell in love with the song. This song is so good. The song is so good. I don't know how I didn't like it at first, but now I love it, and it's one of my favorite songs on the album. But The Struggle Within is a very underrated song. It's the final song on the album. And usually the last songs of an album aren't really talked about much, because they're the last songs. But I don't think that's a good excuse. The Struggle Within is a really good song, though. If you haven't heard any of these songs and you're a Metallica fan, you should listen to these, because these are really good. So now that we got the big 5 albums out the way, now we can get into their other albums. So for Load, I put, now I'm gonna do a little disclaimer here. For Load and Reload, I've listened to all of the songs on the album, but I don't like all the songs. And the songs I don't like, I don't remember. So, but obviously they weren't that good if I didn't like them. Because I like every single song off the first five albums, so I can tell you which one is underrated. But for these ones, just talking about the ones that I've heard from the album, I mean, I've heard all of them. But the ones that I like, what is the most underrated? And if I don't like the song, most likely it sucks, and it's probably not underrated. Or overrated, it probably just sucks. But for that, for the most underrated song on Load, I put Hero of the Day. And this is one of the more recent songs I've discovered from Metallica. And when I mean recent, I mean like probably half a year ago or something like that. Maybe a couple months ago for sure. Because a couple months ago, I was like, okay, I want to listen to every Metallica song, and I have. I've actually listened to every Metallica song that they've ever made. Every single, every EP, every album, every single song. And I even have all of their songs. Any Metallica song that's ever been recorded, I own it back there. All the CDs back there. So I've listened to every song now. And I guess I haven't heard Hero of the Day before. And the first time I listened to it, bro, instantly the best song on the album. Instantly. I don't think there's any better song on Load. I think Hero of the Day is very underrated. And I think if you like the first 5 albums, you might like this song, mostly because there is like sections in the song where it gets really fast and heavy and thrashy, I guess you can say. What? Thrash on Load and Reload? Yes. So yeah, that's Load. And then for Reload, I put Slither. Now this one I think is underrated, for sure. Slither, you probably never even heard of that. Yes, there is a Metallica song called Slither, and it's on Reload, and I think it's really catchy, and I think it sounds unique, and I like it, and I think it's a good song, and I think it's underrated. For Saint Anger, I don't have a song that I think is underrated, because all the songs suck. And I don't believe there's a single good song on the studio version of Saint Anger. And the reason why I specifically said studio version is because I've seen Saint Anger songs played live, and they sound awesome. They sound awesome. Recently, and when I mean recently, I mean a couple months ago, Metallica posted a video from their 72 Seasons World Tour, and they played a song from, I think it was called Dirty Window, and they played it live, and I watched it, of course. I'm a huge Metallica fan, so I watched the live performance, and I'm like, dude, this sounds awesome. So, you know, it sounded great. Then I went to the album version. The first 10 seconds, I instantly turned it off. I'm like, yeah, this sucks. And it's sad because, like, live, they sound so good, but the studio version is just so trash. And it's funny that the song that they played was called Dirty Window. And the entire album sounds dirty. The entire album sounds dirty. It sounds like, oh my god, it honestly annoys me how bad that album is, like the studio version. I am still waiting for a remastered version of Saint Anger. The album is over 20 years old. I think we are well overdue for a remaster. And same thing goes for Death Magnetic. I think Death Magnetic sounds horrible. Live, they sound good. If they were to remaster Death Magnetic and Saint Anger, chances are I might actually like most of the songs on those albums. But since all we have is the studio version, that's what we're gonna have to deal with. And you could say, oh, we'll just listen to the live versions. Here's the thing: I don't like listening to live versions of a song like frequently, like unironically or ironically. I forgot how that term works. But like, say I'm sitting in a car and I'm listening to Metallica and I have it on shuffle, and then a live performance comes on. I want to hear the song, because not only am I hearing it not recorded in the studio, I'm also hearing the crowd and all their yelling, and it's just like, no. So I don't actually have an underrated song for Saint Anger, because quite frankly, I don't like any song on the album from the studio version. But if you really wanted me to give you an answer, I guess I'll go with Dirty Window, because it sounded really good live. But I'm warning you, it sounds horrible. And there actually are people who like Saint Anger and like Death Magnetic. And you know, props to you. Your ears are more, your ears can tolerate that. My ears cannot. So we spent too much time on that. Let's move on. For Death Magnetic, I put, and by the way, same thing goes for Death Magnetic. I don't like any song off this album except the Unforgiven 3 and The Day That Never Comes. I think the problem, and I made a video explaining why I think Saint Anger and Death Magnetic are horrible albums, but the main reason why I don't like Death Magnetic is I think the songs are way too long, with no progression, very repetitive, and just plain boring. So there's only 2 songs I like. I'm gonna go with the Unforgiven 3, because The Day That Never Comes is the most popular song on that album, and that's like the only song from Death Magnetic that they still play live to this day. But I'm gonna go with the Unforgiven 3. I think the Unforgiven 3 is probably the most underrated Unforgiven. Like, everybody likes the Unforgiven 2 and Unforgiven 1, but the Unforgiven 3 is underrated. I think it's really good. For Hardwired, I put Man Unkind. Just a random pick. I think a lot of the songs on Hardwired are underrated, but I went with Man Unkind. It's just a good song. I think it's underrated. And then finally, for 72 Seasons, y'all know how much I love this album. It blew my expectations. And I'm not joking either. Like, I'm actually being serious. I actually love that album. And for the most underrated song, in my opinion, for 72 Seasons, I put Crown of Barbed Wire. I think Crown of Barbed Wire is such a good song. It's really heavy. It's a heavy song, and his vocals are just perfect. It's just a good song. So there you go. That is my list of the most underrated songs from each Metallica album. Originally, I was gonna do the most underrated Metallica songs, but I just did the most underrated Metallica songs on each album. So yeah, that's it for the video. 15 minutes, not bad. Probably not going to be too much editing on this one. You know, for the last video, I put images on the screen. I made a video recommending bands for Metallica fans. I put images of the albums on the screen. If you're watching this, you probably know what all the album covers look like. You probably know the names of these songs, unless you don't know them, which they're underrated. So I'm not going to do too much editing. Just probably going to put some background music, play my goofy intro that I made. And yeah, that's basically it for the video. I'll see you guys in the next one, because now I'm out of video ideas. I had this one, which was the most underrated Metallica songs. I had this video, which I already recorded and I uploaded it. It was the bands I recommend for Metallica fans. And in this video, I have recorded. I have not uploaded it yet, but I will upload it soon. And it's the real reason why people hate Metallica. And I was spitting facts, so make sure you watch that. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Yeah.